YouTube, what is going on? It is your boy Keezy. It ain't easy being Keezy, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Ambush Design Company, what they're kind of doing right now, a little bit about its history, and also moving into 2020, why you should be probably following them if you're into streetwear. So without further ado, let's talk about it. So I'm actually very happy to create this content on this topic since we finally get a chance to talk about female representation in streetwear. As far as this recording goes, Ambush's popularity is fairly new, but since the beginning they've already collaborated with some of the heavyweights like Nigo, Sakai, Undercover, and also Nike. The name came about because of Yoon's style of creating things by surprise, thus the name Ambush. Now, much of the descriptions of the brand online does not say that they are specifically a streetwear brand, and instead is labeled as a Japanese jewelry brand. So their approach to marketing the garments is quoted as apparel created as a canvas to complete the story. But of course, more on that later. So why don't we take a couple steps back and talk about the owners and their beginnings. Ambush was founded by two people, Verbal and Yoon. Yoon is a Korean American who grew up in Seattle and was always fascinated by youth culture. In their college days, they met at Boston University, where Verbal studied philosophy and Yoon studied graphic design. By 1998, Verbal had left the Japanese hip-hop group called M-Flow and started his career in the music industry. But where they both began their collaborations was starting with Verbal's passion for music and Yoon's eye for design. While other rappers of the times were covered in baggy clothes with a hip-hop aesthetic, Yoon later assisted with getting Verbal into brands he loved like Dior and Raf Simons, which was totally a different take on what was popular at the time. Some might even argue that this was the beginning of mixing high-end luxury fashion into rap imagery, but of course, I leave that debate for you in the comments section below. Now, moving ahead a couple years, in 2002, they partnered and created Ambush Design Company, which was stated to be a design outlet for Yoon. And under the same branding, she helped to design rap covers for artists, which of course included Verbal. By 2006, Verbal's rap career had taken off by being a part of a group called the Teriyaki Boys, which was manifested by Nigo. This connection to the industry later gave them exposure for their jewelry and landed them in the circles of prominent names like Pharrell Williams, A$AP Rocky, and Kanye West, which also marked the beginning of their first brand that was called Antonio Murphy Astros. So by 2008, they established their second line, which is an instant success. Ambush Designs casted a new wave of jewelry aesthetic and gained enough popularity that it was hard not to notice. And to prove my point for brand relevancy, does anyone remember the chain that was floating around the internet that said POW on it, or POW? This design was actually made by Ambush, and the person who promoted that chain the most was Big Sean. This iconic design had peaked around 2010, and as we know it, Big Sean solidified this look wearing it on his debut album, Finally Famous. But it wasn't only Sean's contribution to supporting Ambush, it was also people like Jay-Z and Kanye West who'd been seen rocking the beaded chains that helped create stir for the brand in conjunction. And while of course these major artists don't take all the credit for Yoon's entry into pop culture, but this was definitely a good ripple effect to get her foot in the door. And through Yoon's words herself, she states, "We belong to a generation of designers who grew up on skate culture and street clothes in the 1990s and 2000s, so naturally it gets manifested in our creations." And this might come to no surprise, for Yoon's track record for making noise in the jewelry game is undoubtedly solidified with her creations of the eyeball ring and gang chain bracelet worn by Lady Gaga in 2010, the multi-charm necklace, the padlock leather choker, and the safety pin inspired jewelry, which also might have been the same bracelet worn by Virgil himself. So with this ever-changing market of streetwear-hungry consumers always wanting something new and different, Yoon has created Ambush to grow organically as a brand that's oozing with creativity. And much of the inspiration of Ambush as a brand moving forward is their decision to moving their studio to Japan. As we know, Japan has always been one of the leading fashion capitals of the world, especially for modern day fashion dialogue. But why this move to Japan is influential to sway the brand's image is because of something called remix culture, in which Verbal states that this is the environment that he encourages any young designers to challenge the status quo. Much of what you see from Ambush has a unique spark to their garments because of their willingness to pursue unisex designs in a predominantly male clothing category. This idea of remix culture and unisex designs is borrowing from foreign concepts and then diversifying it as much as possible, and then finally making it their own. So it's safe to say that Ambush philosophy of remix culture and influence of Japanese street fashion is helping to propel the connection of streetwear and high fashion alike. These same ideas have elevated Yoon to more opportunities, and by 2017 she landed as one of the finalists for the LVMH Awards. But it doesn't stop there, because by 2018 she had also been appointed to be the designer for Dior's jewelry line, bringing a more ambush street aesthetic, which further proves that streetwear has taken over the luxury section. But not only is it great that street fashion is embarking on a new journey to diversity, but it's people like Yoon that hold an interesting position in her line of work. Compared to the male counterparts, she faces some of the different stigmas that other brands might not go through. In addition to the normal pressures of running a leading brand moving into the new decade, she also is faced with overcoming patriarchal stereotypes in this specific genre of clothing. With the success of Ambush in recent years, has competing brands asking themselves whether Yoon is really the one behind the work. So rightfully so, we should give credit where credit is due. Running a dominating brand as a female designer in street fashion represents the little engine that could. And streetwear has always been about breaking stereotypes and not caring about what the status quo really is. And I believe Yoon is leading by example by overcoming gaps of ignorant traditions that needed to be broken in the first place. So in conjunction to breaking stereotypes, her success in solidifying Ambush seems to be spearheading a new inspiration for women in streetwear and creating her own lane when it comes to what is considered street fashion. And with that said, I also understand that Yoon is not the only one who occupies this space for female representation. But in terms of pop culture and relevancy to a new generation, then I think Yoon takes the limelight. So whether you have heard about Ambush or not, there is no doubt that Yoon and Verbal have manifested Ambush to be a brand that is constantly adapting with creativity. And speaking from my own perspective, I believe the company has a strong enough track record to continue satisfying their evolving fan base. As far as marketing goes and how it's sold to its consumers, I think Yoon and Verbal are playing their cards right for product exclusivity. I also personally enjoy the fact that Ambush is a brand that seems to be growing organically and not taking the route of forceful influencer marketing, but of course that is up for debate. And moving into the new decade, I would say it's looking like a bright future for Ambush, and I hope to see more of their shocking merchandising tactics. And for my final thoughts, I understand the brand is still writing history as we speak, so let me know if I left out anything in this video in the comments section below. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys and girls keep it locked right here for all your latest information from clothing, music to culture. It is your boy, and I'm out. Peace.